often says to me, he's like, "You have no plan B, do you?" And no, no. And I
I
think
don't
I'm past.
I
I
don't
think
know
I'm
if you
past halfway
can.
of my life. No, you. How? I mean, we're fortunate that we're able to do what we do for a living. I'm sitting here with Todd Carey, by the way. If you guys,
What's up, everyone?
I'm sure it's all in the captions. And I'm new to this interviewing Zoom thing, but we're here to talk about Down the Hatch and all other good things as well.
So
Um,
excited and honored to be part of it, Pat.
oh, dude,
Was part of it last year, and I was looking over, and hopefully I'm not cutting you off or anything, but I was looking
no,
over the
no,
lineup as we set up, and
right,
you have done it.
right,
I'm very, very excited. And, in some of the few just quick combos we've had, I know you're
right.
pleased with it.
Oh my
But
God,
I think
big
you're right
time.
to be. And this is not like hype. This is just like, I am pumped about this lineup.
I mean, you were probably, I know my daughter is this person because I see her forking over all the money for all of her friends' concert tickets and then slowly getting the $30 a piece back over Venmo, which I wish I had
Mhm.
Venmo in the 80s. I might have gotten paid for these concerts and I bought tickets for. Dude, you gonna cut me a check from your mom's checkbook or what? Don't forget those handling fees, bro. And now it's like I've created this show at Down the Hatch that I want to go to. And I think more than ever this year, there's so many new artists. Some of them I haven't seen live, and but I know them from friends and through the internet and just in general been passing like ships in the night music venues over 30 years.
Mhm.
So I'm just thrilled. Jacko Pierce are friends of mine from Texas who literally when I was in high school, I played this bar in Georgetown called Dylan's Cafe with my brother. I'm like a sophomore in high school playing in
Mhm.
bars. My brother is 5 years older than me, so I got away with a lot of things at that age.
The
And
best.
one of which was playing music in bars at a young age. And I remember when I celebrated my 21st birthday, there like 5 years later, and the guy was like, "What? You're how old now?" I'm like, "Oh, you couldn't tell. I looked 10 when I came here." Uh,
Classic.
but anyway, I saw Jacko Pierce's poster on the wall next to Derryberry, Malaysia, and Vertical Horizon, and
Unbelievable.
I'm like, this is a little tiny acoustic bar in Georgetown because Vertical had gone to school there, and John Alasia and Doug Derryberry, who went on with fame with Dave Matthews and all sorts of other artists. But I would see this band Jacko Pierce and be like, man, they got like a really professional poster. I'm literally cutting out catalogs, guitar shapes, and like my mom bought me a stamp for Christmas. Like stamp. I mean, these things were so arts and craft. It was so lame.
I
But
love it. I
I'm
love
looking
it.
at I'm looking at these posters and they're like legit. I'm like, this is like a real band. And they came from Texas to play at this bar. So it's crazy to me that all these years later, I mean, that's like 35 years ago or something. I don't even
Mhm.
want to do that math, but it's really
Well,
cool to
it's
keep
funny
up.
that you mentioned Jacko Pierce as like a jumping off point for me, Pat,
Hmm.
as someone who, you know, you mentioned your brother, right? I think a lot of us guys who play music had, that those gateway, maybe like a
Right.
musical mentor. And for me, it sounds like your brother had a big impact on you playing music and
Huge.
getting
Yeah.
into the bars and the whole thing. So for me, it was my neighbors who were kind of like brothers, and they got me into all the bands that I looked up to at the time. The
Right.
Dave Matthews's, the Fish,
Right.
the
Right.
whole the fathers of the scene that we have, for better or for worse, been part of. And
Hmm.
one of my earliest memories is them playing Jacko Pierce for me,
Oh, wow.
and they were
That's
singers and
cool.
guitar players, and we
Right.
made a little demo of the song Rain, and it was
Oh,
my
that's a great
first
song.
experience. It's a great song. I was going to see
Right.
if you're definitely familiar with it.
Oh,
um
yeah.
so symbolically, Jacko Pierce for me, who I've never seen, but
Right.
just it's almost a full circle thing to be part of a
Yeah.
bill with them. As like, it feels great, and I'm honored. And some of these other people you have, Will Hogue, who's incredible,
Right.
uh Rusted, Michael from Rusted, who I've
Right.
again never seen, but these were legends and are legends.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so cool to be part of it. I felt I needed to emphasize that to you, how full circle this
Yeah.
bill feels to me. And as someone who's come up in that, but also pursue different lanes, it's
Hmm.
it's just very cool to be part of, and I'm really
Right.
looking forward to
To
this
be
weekend.
back into that fold.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
well,
I've
both
definitely,
like never left, but just
right.
Yeah.
No, we come from the same thing of like we always want to keep a toe in the jam world and be
Yeah.
not necessarily be recognized, just be part of the jam, figuratively and musically and all that
Hmm.
stuff. But
Hmm.
yeah, having Rusted Root, Michael come in, it's like we always had this running joke in Pat McGee band when someone would say, "Well, who do you guys play?" Like, because we joked that our name was Pat McGee Band Who, because everyone always said, "What's the name of your band?" Because our tour bus would pull through a truck plaza or a toll thing or whatever, pull up to a McDonald's, like, "Who's on the bus?" And we couldn't say it slow enough. Pat McGee Band. They go, "Pat McGee Band Who?" Like, no, that's not what we said. Do we have to say it slower? And they would never get it. So our bus driver just started lying and being like, Clint Black, George Harrison. He would say the most random thing. Anyway, but our thing in the band, because we had just got off a little run with Rusted Root in like 96,
Yeah. I
we
mean,
were like, this is incredible.
big stuff, right? Like
Oh,
let's paint the
huge.
picture that Rusted Root was a major and still is not a major act, major band.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
saw them play, Pat, in an outdoor amphitheater shed when I was at
Right.
1996. I think it
Right.
was the bill with Neil Young, or maybe it was Dave Matthews. I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
major, you know?
Maybe was it the Horde tour? Because I know they were
I
on that
think
too.
so. It wasn't Horde, but it may have been the next summer. It was
Right.
right in that zone. And it's,
Yeah.
I was back row of this lawn seeing Rusted Root. Do you know
Right.
what I'm
Right.
saying?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like for us. So it'll be, and I've actually, I mean, maybe I met Michael when we were on the road in 96, but that was a long time ago. And we were different people then. I just remember that the energy of that show was so inclusive. Like everyone was there to have a great time. And I think he's going to feel that at Down the Hatch. But yeah, so
Yeah.
fast forward to like, I can remember one time we got in trouble with the law in Colorado, and our road manager
No.
was talking to a police officer. He's like, "Well, we play with bands like Rusted Root," and like that became our line. Anytime anyone asks us, "Who are you?" and "Who do you compare yourselves to?" and we literally would not ever anyone had the same answer. We play with bands like Rusted Root, and it didn't mean it didn't. We don't sound a thing like Rusted Root, but it was just kind of funny that that's our thing. I can't wait to share that with Michael. He'd be like, "I hope that helps," but
I love it.
yeah, but Michael, Will Hogue is just a force of nature. I mean, the lineup is great. I don't want to go into every
Yeah.
one of them because they're just
Jacko
it's
Pierce. I mean, honestly, like I'll go because I just love this. Steve Poltz, who I've
Steve
not met
Poltz.
personally, but have been in this and not currently, but was in a songwriting group with an artist named Bob Schneider, who's an incredible singer songwriter, and
Know
he
it
had
well. Yeah.
an email group where he would send you a phrase, coffee mug. You just took a sip, and
Right.
you have to write a song with the phrase coffee mug in there somewhere. And one of the stalwarts of this series was Steve Poltz. So he would send a song through every week, and I was like, "Who is this Steve Poltz?" And he wrote,
Yeah.
this isn't in your literature, but it's worth sharing with people that he
Oh,
wrote. Is it Meant for You by Jewel?
yeah,
I
yeah,
Was Meant
yeah.
for You.
Yeah, it was meant
I
for you.
mean,
Yeah.
these songs are like, you talk about
Yeah.
Rusted Root and Send Me On My Way. These are like some of the biggest songs of the
Right.
last whatever it is. These are
Right. Right.
major songs.
Steve's a
So
monster, and his performances are
yeah,
like. I've actually gone out of my way to not look up a bunch of stuff because all my friends that work at Six Man, my old drummer Charlie,
yeah,
still my drummer,
yeah,
Patrick
yeah.
Macklin, who sees Steve Poltz in his element on the Kayamo and
Hmm.
various other festivals. And we played the
Hmm.
38 Songwriter Festival together, but I've never seen him set to
Yeah,
sets because I'm always playing at the same time. So I've just heard like it's life changing. Like the set
yeah,
is not even real. What happens on stage? You might know his music, but when you see the show, you're gonna
right.
flip out, and it's just solo. And you're like, I love
Yeah,
to know that I love to know that like tsunami of happiness is coming at me. So I'm
yeah.
excited. And that is
It's
why,
funny also that you say like not looking stuff up because I'm such a music fan that it's
right,
like I always am trying to balance this like fandom with like
right.
being a professional or whatever. So what is the line? I just
I
surrender to it.
know,
I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go like all full nerd zone. You know what I'm
right.
saying?
It's starting to. I once had an experience at the wetlands in New York where I handed my CD to Joe Jackson. Joe Jackson, legendary
Wow.
artist in the 70s and 80s. And I'm thinking, I used to cover Is She Really Going Out with him in my high school band. I'm like, I got to hand Joe Jackson my CD. And I handed him my CD. He handed it right back to me and goes, I don't really listen to music. I was like, oh, Okay, and I'm just left holding my CD like, okay.
Oh
I didn't know what
man.
to do next. I was like, and my first thought is like, oh, that's not cool. And I get
Yeah.
later in life, I'm like, that was incredibly honest and really kind of rude, but I wouldn't do that. I might take it with me and then be like, I get why some artists don't want to consume too much of maybe the same stuff for fear of like ripping something off, or they're
Sure.
just influenced by other things and they just want to keep that path of creativity. But you know,
Or
that's
maybe it's just his line. Like we're watching a lot of Curb and Larry David. I just listened to this interview where he's like, when people ask him for a selfie, he goes, "I don't take pictures outside." And then if they're outside, he says, I don't take, or if they're inside, he says, I don't take pictures inside." And he
oh
says,
my God.
people just give him like a weird look, but they're like, maybe there's
Right.
something to that.
Right. Oh my God.
And then
That's good stuff.
quickly offline sometimes so we don't like lose your entire audience here or mine or
Right.
whatever. But I have
Right.
to grill you about the wetland scene at some point in
Oh
at some
yeah.
maybe when we're hanging or whatever.
Yeah.
But
One of my proudest moments was walking into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and seeing the microbus, the Volkswagen bus that used to be the merch booth at the wetlands.
wow.
And they had it in the lobby. And my
Mm.
sticker was still on it. So I was like, we're in the Rock and Roll Hall of
Hey,
Fame.
you're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Totally in here.
There
And by
it
the
is.
way,
You are.
does everybody know you can get in with a CD for free? If you have your own CD, it's your admission price.
Good
So if you
God.
haven't done that, walk in there and hand your CD, and then they literally make you sign. It's pretty cool. They give you a document to sign that says if you're ever inducted, you agree to donate uh, things of your career. It's
I
a
love that.
legitimate document. I was like, you're making me feel pretty awesome right now. And they don't, as
That's
long as your
cool.
name is on the CD, they're like, you get in for free. Kind
You
of neat.
got it.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
good to know.
yeah. I'm sure we're going to be there together at the first ballot, right? You and I.
That's absolutely that would be coming up at some point.
I think mine just passed. I got to talk to somebody.
Let's
Anyway,
get you in, man.
let's. Yeah, right. Oh God. Anywho, yeah, down the hatch is going to be because of that Steve Polk comment. Not because of that, but like I don't. All the festivals I played in my career, and not to knock any of them because they have to have a flow and they have to have various options for people. Down the hatch was always something that I'm like, I will never put something on at the same time as something else because
I love
my
that.
whole purpose of this event is to turn people on to new music. And if I literally got an email today, what when is this artist playing? What time are they going on? I need to plan my vacation. I'm like,
Mhm.
hmm. I usually for the first I would say 7 or 8 years, I didn't even publish the schedule at all. Like
Right.
it just said like live music starting at noon, be on the beach.
Hmm.
So people go down to the beach, they set up their chairs and they pop their drinks and they don't know what's going to happen.
Hmm.
And that allows them to not have some sort of like, oh, maybe I don't know who Steve Poltz is. I'm going to go get a fish taco down the street. Like
Hmm.
he's only going to play these little moments because everyone, it's a less is more situation down there because of that. Because there's just not multiple stages. Could artists play a
Hmm.
lot more time? Yeah, but we'd split the crowd up. And my goal is people leave there a what you did last year, blow people's minds, and they all leave going, "Well, freaking, I'm all about Todd Carey now." And I didn't know who he was before I got there. Or I had heard things, or I heard about the SAT stuff, and now I'm
Hmm.
all in. And I thought this, but now I think this. And
Mm.
you kind of can't hide when you're just acoustic guitar on the beach with a microphone. The level playing field is serious, and we got out
Totally.
there. The weather last year was in 14 years. I don't know, somehow like the devil of Scotland came in and just took over the way. It was the oddest 4 days I've ever experienced. So that's not normal. Normally, people need to put like you can't put your toe in that sand without third-degree burns from how hot
Right.
the beach
Right.
is. And
Yeah.
last year it was something freakish. So we're praying for good weather
Well,
this year.
that's rare. And first of all, thank you for saying that about what I do. And second of all, philosophically, you've talked to me about this about your festival before, the way you
Mm-hmm.
set it up like that. Philosophically, could not agree more. I think that the original concept of the festival was the focus is the artist, not multiple choices and
Right.
breaks. Like
Right.
moments for the audience to like catch their breath or like go
Right.
put their feet in the water. I
Right.
think that there's something there, and not to like knock on the modern festival, which is like
Right.
a thing of beauty, but I do think that the original idea was closer to what you're talking about. And
Right.
I'm a huge fish head, and I've heard them talk about this where they throw the
Sure.
festivals and it's just them. And
Right.
I've heard like Trey Anastasio comment on like modern festivals. It's like it's too much. It's
It's
too
too
much.
much.
Like, let's focus on an act and let's take a break and like
Yeah,
refresh and be on your vacation. So philosophically, Pat, I'm
right.
totally agree with you on your approach.
Honestly, it used to be a 2 day festival. Now it's 4 days, and I've added a
Unbelievable.
fifth day on Sunday, which is like a wind down thing where I have a roundtable discussion of what we all just did. What did you like? What did you not like? What could we do different next year? And then we do some. It's really fun. It's like 30 people that
So
I thought
cool.
it was. I thought no one was going to show up, and it sold out in like a day. And I'm like, oh, well,
Amazing.
this is fun. So now I have to extend
What year are we on? Are you on for this festival?
14.
Unbelievable, man.
So it's
Unbelievable.
crazy. Yeah, I'm already thinking about something crazy for 15. But yeah,
Yeah,
this
that's
is
a
going to
big
be a
one.
special year. I'm thrilled you're coming. And I
I'm
know that
again, I honored
it's
to be part of it, man.
well, it's you are in the sense that like we just did this show with John Popper, and you kind
So
of come from
cool.
that world of like you have many talents you bring to the table. Even if you
Thank you.
didn't pick up an instrument and just walked around and talk to people, I wasn't aware of that until I don't know if artists are going to come there and be accessible. It's not mandatory. I don't tell you like, dude, you have to sit on the beach all day and talk to people, or you have to walk around and say hey, or go, enjoy a meal with a guest. Every time I turned around, you were sitting with some other guest, having a cocktail with someone, having lunch with someone, walking down the hall with someone else. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, this is what it's all about. And those people, those moments go a long way. And I learned a lot of that feeling. We're both, this is going to air after they announced the Sail Across the Sun cruise that we've both been, honored to be a part of over the years. And that all started with the rock boat back in early
Mm,
2000s.
hmm.
And Sister Hazel, old friends of ours, and the original Six Man folks set this literally like, here's the playpen, here's all the toys. Let's see what
Hmm.
happens with these kids and these other kids. What are they gonna do? And from the early stages of that, me and my band were like, well, this is a natural habitat for us, and we're just gonna
Hmm.
yuck it up with everybody and have a great
Yeah.
time. And it was so natural. It just felt like this is what we're meant to do. And I take a lot of those experiences from that cruise and walking
Yes.
around and having those moments. I had people after those cruises be like, "You don't remember this, but we were walking down the hall and then you stopped, and it was you, and it would be like me and Brandy Carlisle walking down the hall. This is before people knew who she was, and she'd sit down at the piano. We were yucking it up and talking to people, and she plays a little song, and then they walk away. And that moment was like that. It could have been my whole vacation. Someone says.
Hmm.
So
Agree.
it's really
Well,
cool.
and also, Pat, and couldn't thank you for saying that. Also, I think when you do what you do well, which you do, and your band is great,
Well, that's
you
nice.
have
Thank you.
a cool audience, right? And I want to be friends with those people. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
it's not like a job to go out and it's like this is probably what I'd be doing if I wasn't working. I'd be like working is the wrong word, but if I went with my wife, I'd be walking around talking to everyone who's coming to see this band.
Right.
So it is like you said, a playpen, natural habitat, and it's
Right.
the folks that you attract are great people. So yeah, it's easy. I want to go hang out with them.
Yeah. Yeah. They are the sort of, I don't want to, it's not like a business decision, but they seem like those tipping point fans and friends who are the ones that like, I like music this much. I'm going. And I'm bringing my friend who doesn't really listen to live music, and now she's like all into it, or he's like
Right.
a super fan of, now that he follows this band around. He's never even seen them before. And now he's
Yeah.
like driving an hour and a half to go see someone in Pittsburgh because of
But I
Down the
think the thing
Hatch.
is like that's you also, and that's me. Like
Yeah.
if we weren't doing this, that's what we'd be doing.
Right.
Another random tidbit. I always talk about these like Messiah, but like Garcia, right? Jerry Garcia. Before
Hmm.
he was in the Grateful Dead, he was going around to bluegrass festivals with his tape recorder. Like he
Right.
always talks about famously like how he played music to support his music habit. It's not his job. Like
Right.
we are these people already. We just happen to also
Yeah.
be playing. You know what I'm saying?
I set a clip from Instagram this morning to my daughter, literally to be like, it was really a clip to be like, are you awake and going to school? You said you have to be there at 9 o'clock. And I don't want to heckle her. So I was like, I'll send her this Jerry Garcia little Instagram thing that
Smart,
came up. And it was
smart.
him talking about, I get to do this for a living. What is this nonsense? Like, I would have done it anyway. I just
Yeah,
met Bob. He was freaking out because he just met
right.
Bob Dylan. He's like, I got to meet Bob Dylan. Oh my
Yeah,
God. And that's really cool. So that's the way
it's real.
it's real. And Yeah. So can you walk me back to like, you're from Chicago, correct?
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's where this whole thing started. I mean, how early are we
Hmm.
talking with like instruments? Did your parents put instruments? Wasn't your father a musician?
So
Remember?
mom was, she
Okay.
taught music. She was a
Oh,
teacher,
awesome.
but the love really came from him. So it was like a
Right.
combo of like ability and passion. He's the kind of
Right.
guy like can't carry a tune, but was like, this is John Coltrane and would play me
Oh
giant
yeah.
steps. But my
Oh
mom was the one who
nice.
could like play the harp. You know what I'm saying? So
Oh
it's
yeah.
like,
Oh
and
wow.
she's 4'11", so she was like carrying a harp around her campus. And it's
Oh my
like,
God.
I can't do this. I can't, she
Oh
quit,
my
but
God.
she was doing it for real. But yeah, it wasn't like one of those situations, Pat, where it's like Suzuki method. Like I had a thing and an instrument in my hands at 4. It was fostered
Right.
just with like love. Never felt myself to be like one of those exceptionally talented people where you meet musicians on the road and they've been doing it in the cradle. I think it
Right.
really came from kind of like what we're talking about, a place of love. Never
Right.
pushed on me like I had to beg for it.
Right.
Had the electric guitar was never going to be in my hands until I like
Right.
worked to buy the instrument. And
Right.
it was, I had to like grab it from the situation. But
Right.
I was definitely encouraged once I was into it. And yeah, it was Chicago suburbs. The kind of setting we talked about where early I think it was like old school rock from my dad, who was like a baby
Right.
boomer. Elvis, the
Right.
Beatles, like those were the things. But then as I
Right.
started to come of age, you know the early parts of grunge, loved, like that
Right.
was it for me. And it was
Right.
like uncharacteristically artsy. Like if you look back
Yeah.
at like grunge, man, like for how
Right.
popular that was, those aren't like conventional pop songs that should be
Oh
selling
no.
20 million records. It's crazy. So I think it came from a place that like, dad would be like, listen to Coltrane, listen to, classical music. And then at the
Right.
same time, you're hearing like grunge music, which is like weirdly artsy,
Right.
and then moving into the jam universe, which I totally loved because it was so inclusive. It felt so accessible. It was so community based, kind of like what we're
Right.
talking about with the people
Right.
who come to Down the Hatch. And like, so that fostered the love, man, and it just went from
Yeah.
there for me.
Right.
Like I just wanted to be really good at my instrument. Didn't consider myself a singer. Just like I was like, I just want to be part of this. And I've heard other
Right.
musicians say this. Like I've heard Matt
Oh, I was the
Nathanson
same way.
speak like this. You know
Oh
what I'm
yeah.
saying?
I
Yeah.
was afraid. We had
Right.
my high school band. We would audition singers. Like the whole, like you have a piece of paper with the tab you pull down. Like I'd like to be your singer. You put it at the local music store, and we had
Yes.
guys come in one after the other. And I was 15. We're playing "Sunshine on Your Love,"
Yeah.
Cream, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God, I'm too nervous to say I think I can sing this, but I'm so terrified to even step up to that microphone." So these other guys would come in with their mics and they're like, "Getting it
Doing the
on, oh
thing.
good, oh my God, this is so boring." The three of us are killing this song, nah, 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 nah. And the singer's like taking us down, and it was one after the next, and we're like, I remember being like, "Well, we're all set up. I'll just sing it, whatever." They're like, "Okay." Like, turn the lights down lower, please. God, I'm terrified. And I remember singing "Cream" and being like, "Oh, I guess
Sunshine.
I can sing the second part of it, which is the higher part." I'm like, "All right, I guess
Really
that's
scared.
yeah." My God. Yeah, it was crazy. So that was the moment where I was like, I guess they're like, "You're the singer." I'm like, "I am." All
Yeah.
right, fine.
Yeah.
So that was me, and
I like
do you
that.
have
It's
yeah,
such an honest place to come at it from.
yeah. I wasn't.
Yeah.
I actually look at
That
my kids now. I think I always say pre Glee, the TV show Glee,
yeah.
like
That
it
was a
was
turning point.
that brought so many kids to be like, I'm doing plays, I'm doing theater, I'm singing, I'm not
Hmm.
afraid to be who I am. I'm going to do it.
Hmm.
And I thought that was
Hmm.
incredible. So before that, it was not cool. I didn't.
Right.
It was like terrifying to do that.
Hmm.
Especially if you were thought of as somebody else. I was in the basketball team. I didn't get a guitar till I was 16 or 15, 16. And that's when things tipped where I was like, well, I like this. This is great.
Hmm.
But I was terrified to do it then. And I look at these kids now that bust out songs with no fear. And I'm like, man, I wish I did theater like as a kid. I'm trying to convince my son Jack, because I'm really good friends with the theater people here, because I've written a few songs for some of the plays, which has been absolute blast to write outside of your own person, to be like, well, I'm not going to sing this.
Yeah.
This little girl's going to sing it. It's going to be so fun. So he's got that like, no, I can't. I'm too scared. I'm like, meanwhile, you play drums like a 25-year-old, and I know you can sing, and he's making
No way.
electronic music in his. He's got a Nord and a pad, and he's on
Oh
Pro Tools.
wow.
This kid is like making his own music.
That's
Like,
all. If you could
I'm like,
convince the theater part, because that's always the tough sell,
right,
but like the tools that it gives you, which I did not get either.
totally,
I'm same as you. Like, but in retrospect, man,
right.
wish so much. You know what I mean?
Well, it's
It's a big
funny when you
deal.
talk to Jacko Pierce. Those guys went to school for theater. They
It's
met.
a thing.
Carrie and Jack
Yeah.
met at college doing that, but they're like, well, we also
Yeah.
played acoustic in bars, and the real
Mm-hmm.
theater kids were like, well, that's weird
Mm-hmm.
that you're doing that. He's like, well, we do both of it, and now they've been singing together ever since.
Yeah. I was
So, do you have gigs in high school that like? Did you play gigs, or was it more like
totally similar
battle the
thing,
bands?
Pat. Just like battle the bands, and feeling that
Right,
rush of like, oh, I think we're okay at this. You know what I
right.
mean? And just
That's so
and,
fun.
and catching the bug. You're just catching the bug. You're
Now,
playing in basements, you're playing in rec centers, you're playing at your school. Maybe somebody looks at you a little different all of a sudden because you
right.
you did the thing, you got up there
Oh
and you
yeah,
played. Yeah, and that's unfortunately then you have the bug forever. And then you're
I know.
totally bugged out.
I cannot get this one memory out of my head that I played my school assembly, freaking terrified. I think we played Free Fallin' had come out that week, and I played it like
Nice.
I always say. That's like when Hendrix covered, Sergeant Pepper's. Like the following day it came out, and my brother's like,
Yes.
yeah, just like Hendrix and the Beatles. I like, yeah, Pat
It's
McGee
a
playing
great
Tom Petty at the
comparison.
Catholic school. Uh, so
I love
they're
that. It's
I had to
amazing.
clear I had to clear my songs, and they're like, "Sympathy for the Devil. This is a Catholic high school. You can't play that song." I'm
You
like,
can't play
"Oh,
that
come
song.
on." So I played Free Fallin' and one other, I think, Take the Money and Run or something like that. I only did three chord songs back then, and still pretty much only do three
Are
chord
there any
songs.
better
But
songs? I don't
I
think
mean,
so.
so I remember doing that and walking down the hallway. I had to go like back to class because the assembly is like at 10 a.m. in the middle. You're in a Catholic school uniform, tie the whole bit, sweater, and I'm like, I got to put this nonsense back on. I just had like pool clothes on. They let me
Yeah,
change to do the performance. So I was like,
so sick.
I probably put on cargo shorts and a t-shirt. It wasn't anything
Yeah,
cool.
it's
And
like you step into a spaceship and it's warped
yeah,
into another dimension and you became
right,
a superhero for
right,
10 minutes or whatever the three songs was.
right,
And then you go back and your
right.
life is never the same. You know what I mean?
Oh, I walked down the hall and I was like, I think I probably had my guitar because I had to put it back in my homeroom. And
Yeah.
the one girl was like, "So you do that now?" I was like, "I guess."
I
I remember it like it was yesterday because I was like, "Are you still on the basketball team?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not like going on Star Search or anything. That's all that just happened. I'm playing a school dance. That's it." It was
right.
so funny. But if I ever see that girl again, I'm gonna tell her. I'm gonna try and get her to come to.
Just tell him what happened.
Yeah, do you know you ridiculed me and gave me some like a kick in the ass to be like, go do that. I wasn't sure if she
Hmm.
was liking it or like confused. It's kind of great. But anyway,
I mean, these moments, it's amazing how we remember these things because those are the things that they get you going. I
well, you're
just,
the most
all of these little
terrified.
details.
You're the most vulnerable ever getting up
Hmm.
there and doing this. And when someone and you're like on a trapeze act, right? And if
Hmm.
they poke at you, you're like, oh my God, I'm never gonna forget that.
Mm.
So speaking of like when you were like doing the jam thing, I mean, I think you said your band in high school was Heart of Gold Band from
Yeah.
Scarlet. Where
Yeah.
did you bring so currently like what do you take from that music, the jam music, um, and that improv stuff into what you're have been doing in the last 10 years, like in the more of
Mm.
the pop realm? Do you sneak it in there for your own, like, ooh, listen to that little thing I did there? No one's going to get it, but I get it. And maybe one other
Yeah.
guy would, or because I do that with some of my music, and, you know, maybe my brother will pick up on it, but most people are not like, I wouldn't go to a deadhead convention and be like, check out my album. You guys going to dig this. Because it's
But they
too,
might.
they might,
I think they
they
might.
might,
Yeah.
whatever. That's not the
I
goal. As
think
long as
there's
I'm
more
happy
there
with it.
than you give credit for. Like I think first the first thing that comes to my head is philosophically more than anything. I think for a long time it really was, can I squeeze the technical part of jam into what I do, which is like a
Right.
lick or maybe a longer song or something.
Right.
But I think if I went and saw your band just without knowing you, that it's very clear, and I think people do
Mhm.
cotton from that scene on a more real level. I think philosophically though is what these days I'm trying to bring in. It's even less about music. I've heard
Right.
I've even heard John Mayer talk about how when he started playing with Dead and Company, how he couldn't believe that um, the guys in the band would just kind of drift out instead of like, you don't show yourself before the concert. You're kind of drifting around on stage. It's like being at your festival. It's just a
Right.
different philosophy. It's more communal. It's less
Right.
performer audience,
Right.
right? Which for me was never the
Right.
thing. It was never
Right.
about, and I think maybe that's why I didn't do theater. It was never about me being up there so you can
Right.
be like, wow, look at that guy. It was
Right.
more about let's exchange some energy, let's elevate this. And I think
Right.
that even if I'm making the poppiest of pop songs, I somehow want to
Right.
bring that into it. But I also want to do the thing you're talking
Sure.
about, which is try and bring a real part of jam music in. And I don't know if I've gotten there yet. It's a lifelong thing, and I'm trying to figure it out. But
Well,
I
that's the
think it's
beauty
a
of it, is that you can do whatever you
yeah,
want.
yes, yes. So yeah, I think that and I think it comes from jazz. I think it's American music, jazz
Hmm.
music, bluegrass. It's a conversational thing. It's more than the band. It's the audience in the room. Springsteen's autobiography, right? He's talking about
Hmm.
seeing the Grateful Dead in the '70s. He goes, I didn't
Unbelievable.
like them. I thought
Right.
they were like an average bar band. He goes, I saw them again in the '90s, and what I realized is that sometimes what's happening in the audience is as important or more important than what's on stage. And it's a
Yeah.
knock. It's still a knock,
It's still a knock.
but
Yeah.
I think he hit something really essential there. And I that's what I take from it is there is an energy coming from the room that is it's not performer audience. It is, but it isn't. And I think
You
that's
could.
really
Yeah.
important.
That's very well said, and that's what we've always gone for.
Totally. You can
That
it's so clear that that's what you're doing and I love it. Love it.
and that's not something you can sit around and practice. You can't. Practicing your instruments is one thing,
Hmm.
but that is something that just sort of happens.
Hmm.
If you put it, if you're, I think ultimately, if you're okay being yourself, up there,
Hmm.
and I think confidence can be attractive to anyone. The cockiest person in the audience and the biggest wallflower will connect with someone that's like, they're having fun up there, therefore I'm
Hmm.
going to have fun. And it doesn't
Hmm.
matter what genre of music this is. I don't like, unless I'm going to see I don't even know what the band would be. I mean, I'm a big Metallica fan too, and I was like, they kind of play at the audience, but I feel like they're playing for the audience.
Mm.
Um, it's uh, it's a similar vibe where you think, oh my god, Metallica shows are scary, I might get beat up. It's the opposite, and the
I
Grateful
know
Dead
they're
show is the
kind of
only
love fest now, aren't they? It's
total
pretty
love fest,
cool. It's
and
pretty
the
cool.
and
Yeah.
a Dead show is the only place I've ever been where the people in front of me buy drinks for the people,
Yeah.
pay it forward. I think it was
Yeah.
invented by them. I'm like,
Mm.
I would leave my kids in the pit at a Dead show and be totally fine. And that
So
sounds
cool.
irresponsible, but it's
Yeah.
like the safest place. Everybody looks
Totally.
out for everybody else, which I love.
Yeah. Do you think
So,
reps have something to do with it too? Like I look at your band and I know that you guys have played X amount of shows. And I think
what was it?
just
What was
and
the
for me,
question?
I was saying, do you think like reps, like
Oh,
repetition, just have something to I think that may be part of it too. Like I look at your band and I see it, I feel it in the audience when you get up there, and I'm like, they've been on stage so many times that the confidence you're talking about is just from we've done this, we've been in this together. And I see that in Metallica, who have just been doing this for so many years. And there's something that gets swept up into the let's go on this thing together. We've done this. Like
right.
we know how this works. And I think some community gets built that way. Just like it's like a tradition that's passed on. We're going to show you what's happening now that we get up here with the
Right.
person who has not seen your band, and they
Right.
feel that. Yeah, I
Oh,
always think
thank
about the
you.
person who sees the show for the first time. That's the first Pat McGee show, but the one who's standing next to the one who's seen you for 20 years or whatever,
Right.
and they look for cues. It's like taking your daughter to a Dead show. There's
Right.
something that you get pulled into, and I think that's pretty
Right.
cool. And I'm just personally starting to feel that in my thing as
Right.
someone who like has been working to find my thing. Now
Right.
there's people who have come to see us for a while, and I think that's part of it too, like reps, so to speak. You know?
Yeah. And I think that, and with your group, even if it's just you and Rodney, it's like you, there's so much energy exchange between the two of you. That exchange between you and Rodney is like, it's just infectious as hell. And
Well,
you can see
thanks.
that you're leaning on each other. And I do that with everyone in the band. I've said this a million times that I've surrounded myself with more talented people than what I'm doing up there. And we
Important.
all we always do a song differently every night. I'm excited to play Rebecca for literally the 7,000th time because
Mhm.
it's going to be different. And it's the first song I ever wrote, and it's going to be different tonight.
So
And
cool. I
it's
love that.
really it's fun for me because I don't really know where it's going to go. I don't know what I'm going to feel at minute 7 when I'm like, let's go down this road, and they always follow or they show me a different road, and I'm like, okay, you're going there, let's go there. I'm into that. So
Yeah.
I do dig
You can
that.
feel that with your guy, with the guys you
Yeah.
play with. It's you really have
Uh,
understood that. It's impressive. You know,
well,
I'm learning from
thanks.
everyone I play with, and watching you guys do it is amazing.
Well, so your private shows, I see these videos and they look freaking unbelievable. And so you do a lot of private shows. And tell me, like, what do people get when you're showing up at their place or wherever they bring you to some venue or whatever? Like, it seems pretty freaking incredible to have you come do your thing at someone's place.
So funny. I thank you for asking. I
Yeah.
almost like laugh when I think about it because it's we like to keep the idea of like we'll come set up in your driveway like that feeling of let's strip this back to the base, like the
Hmm.
beginning, like
Right.
let's have that excitement from high school where you set up in the rec room basement. That
Hmm.
I think that's what we're trying to do with our house shows, which is like, you know, we do have the benefit of like them knowing our songs and like having a little bit of that we've been around, but I love
Right.
the juxtaposition of that with, you know, let's strip this down to like what's going to happen today.
Right. Right.
And the one of the things that I've been most excited about, Pat, and I know you know this from like maybe you used to do this or whatever, but it's so cool when you have the people who are bringing you to their house who love what you do, but then they bring over like the skeptical neighbors or just the curious neighbors. That's like my favorite thing
Hmm.
because they're like, what's going on over here? Like, who are these
Right.
people?
Right.
What are you guys, like what's happening? And then by
Right.
the end, hopefully, if everything's
Right.
going well, they are like, I'm still in touch with these people 5 years later. Like they're your biggest
Right.
fans. And
Right.
that to me, I think is like one of the it's been the most surprising parts. I didn't anticipate that. And I think it's fun and weird and like wild cardy and kind of like back to the things we were talking about, which is just like
Yeah.
trying to shake it up, do some different stuff and keep it fun, you know?
It's we've done a few house shows over the last years, and obviously pandemic brought on more of that. Coming out of that, people are like, "Wow, my backyard's cooler than I thought it was." Like people learned how to
Totally.
like make their private spaces like their own. Like, well, I guess I'm gonna make this a bar now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we visited some of these newly formed home venues,
Yeah.
and some of them are they're just moving their couch and you're playing by their fireplace,
Yeah.
but I don't think they even know what they're in for. And I
No.
love that. I love that we don't know what we're going to do, but I know that if these people are willing to listen, we can make this like, you're going to be the cool kid on your block now that you've had this party. And we're going to like, it's just such a fun experience to do that. I would have been terrified to do that. At the height of the band, I would have said,
Yeah.
there's no way we can do
Yes.
that. No
Yes.
way.
And I bet that and I believe that to be true. I don't think
Yeah.
that's just something you made up. It's true. We've had a little bit of a different trajectory in that sense where it's like we're scrapping. We've been
Right.
just scrapping. So yeah, I think intrinsically you probably have a different feeling because I could see
Yeah.
that for real. And I've definitely
I
found
mean,
myself in the early on there were some weird situations for sure, but that's the exception. You know what I mean? Yeah.
yeah, well, I think what put a bad taste in my mouth for performing to such intimate crowds was record label non like radio
Yeah.
station visits,
Yeah.
record label performances, where
Unnerving.
you'd have to go into the most awkward of places, and it was always at the crack of dawn, like
Oh,
8 a.m. You're standing by someone's cubicle, and you're trying
yeah.
to like, it's like a bad skit. I mean,
Yeah.
we should have filmed all of it,
Totally.
and
Totally.
oh, it'd be off. It'd be so awkward. They'd be like, "Well, we brought you bagels. Is that good? And of course,
Hmm.
they're trying to eat while you're like, here's my song. Those
Dude.
were such awkward experiences, and
I'm
I
glad you're
don't miss
bringing that
that.
up. That needs to be put out in the open more, how like that is a part of the whole thing. It's so
Oh,
crazy.
humiliating. I felt
Yeah, it's
like
worse.
when I first saw Tenacious D and Jack and Kyle doing their thing, I was like, oh, that's how I felt. And I wish I thought I was that incredible because
Right.
every note I sang, I was like, they're not liking this. This is not good. We're not
Yeah.
going to get added to the radio station.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers is going to drop us. What happens
Yeah.
next? Why am
Each
I
note
here?
is like as you're going.
Yeah, you're like, and you'd leave and there'd be so much adrenaline, and you'd get back on the bus or back in your van at 7 a.m. You're like, did I just do that? And did I just are we getting dropped now because of that performance? Like, what is happening? And then you go, we to us, like, is it XRT? What's the big station in Chicago? We were
Yeah,
always
the
trying to get
XRT was big, and then WIX, or the mix, but I think it was
the
XRT probably that you're talking
yeah,
to.
XRT was the hip AAA, but
Yeah, the AAA,
we
but
were
then the pop was sorry,
the,
cute, whatever it was. Yeah,
right. We were at the time selling House of Blues out clean. And we were like, to me,
amazing.
still to this day, best venue in the country to perform at. It under 1,500 seats. House of
I
Blues
love that you
Chicago
say that. I don't hear
is
people
the
talk
best.
about it, and it's special. It's special.
It's incredible. It's
Yeah.
incredible. I miss it so much, and it's like I don't have goals of like I do always joke every year to my wife while we sit on the couch and eat Mexican food during the Grammys. I'm like, next year, best new artist, Pat McGee. I'm gonna get there, and she's
You
like,
got to, man. You have to, you know?
but my real goal is like I just want to get back to packing out that House of Blues Chicago. So
Yeah.
you and I should work on that together. That'd be awesome.
Love that. Would
It's such a
love that.
great space. But I can remember having to be on wherever Bozo filmed his show out in the suburbs of Chicago back in the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. I don't know where it was,
WGN.
but I grew up watching that show and hearing the name. It's probably out by where I grew up, but yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
I think
Yeah.
it's WGN or something like
No,
that.
WGN was the station, and yeah, that was
Okay,
Cubs, and the thing about WGN was that it was national, because it was
right,
somehow they read the Cubs, but they went nationally, which was
right.
crazy. So anyway, you're be doing WGN, which is a big deal, you know?
Oh, we thought it was.
Yeah,
I'm like, this is like we're on the Tonight Show. This is incredible. I'm like, we had never done any real TV. This was like, oh wow, this is legit. And then we'd have to go over to the mix and try and convince them to play our song. Like, we just played at the Bozo studio, and later today I'm singing the anthem at Wrigley. That's incredible. Like,
huge.
that's the first national anthem I ever said yes to, and I
Yeah,
said no for like 5 years straight. Like,
yeah,
I'm terrified
it's
of that
scary
song. I was like, there's no way we can do that. And then
for us reluctant
yeah,
singers. Yeah,
yeah, and I have 3-part harmony. I got two guys who could sing it, even if I passed out, Johnny or Al could just pick up the pieces and start singing it. So I could literally just mouth it and they could sing it.
yeah,
So we ended
yeah.
up doing it, and that was
That's so
uh,
cool at
in
Wrigley.
at Wrigley. Yeah, yeah.
Sick.
We had
Wow.
there was a fan of one of the pitchers, Randy Wells. He was a pitcher there for a moment. He's back in St. Louis now, but he's a fan of the band, and he called up House of Blues and says the pitcher for the Cubs wants you to come over to Wrigley and sing the anthem. I'm like, oh, I can't
So
say
cool.
no. I can't say no to
No.
that. So we went over there and had a great experience. Chicago, hey man, Chicago is the
I
first place I took my daughters when I'm like, we're fortunate that we get into our vehicles and drive all around this country. We've seen every small city, major city, weird little towns. It's an
mm-hmm.
incredible country that we live in, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of amazing people out there.
I think it's a big part of what we
Um,
do, you know?
oh, huge, and
Mhm.
I so wish I'm sure it'd be my kids' worst nightmare because they're in their 20s now. Like, I'm renting a tour bus and we're gonna go on a like 3 week just check out stuff tour, and they're like, please God no. But I took them
It
to
can that could
Chicago.
definitely happen, man. Like
I mean,
even if it's not now, maybe
yeah,
10 years. You know what I mean?
one day.
No, I
Surprising.
wouldn't be too skeptical of that. That could
Yeah.
so I met one of your daughters at Down the Hatch.
Oh,
Can you
Juliet.
remind
Yeah.
me? So
Yeah,
cool.
Juliet.
She clearly is like totally it's as someone on the others, like at least with a very young daughter, it was
Mhm.
really cool to see her, the way she was interacting with the festival. I loved it. It made
Oh,
me
that's nice.
happy, and it made me it gave me something to look forward to if I do everything right. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, geez. Well,
Yeah.
that's very sweet of you to say. She said to say hi. She got out of the school,
Oh, nice.
out of
And she
my
made it.
she got to school. Oh, she's like the last kid that walks in every day, and she got senioritis big time. She's already committed to college, and she's just kind of like waltzing in there.
Tell her congratulations. That's big,
Oh, I
man.
will.
Yeah,
Always with some random Grateful Dead sweatshirt on. That I'm like, oh, when'd you buy that? I'm like,
I love it.
whatever. So
I love it.
anyway, Down the Hatch was her senior project, if you can believe that. This is the first time
Really?
13 years in, that was the first time my kids have ever, any kid has come to Down the Hatch because I'm so busy and the kids were so young.
So
But when I
last
first
year,
started it, yeah, that was the first
that
time
was the
ever.
first year.
Yeah.
You could tell.
So,
I mean, it. I didn't realize it felt. She was acting like it was fresh in a good way. It. The fact that she was ostensibly, from what I could see, excited was really
right.
cool, and I thought that was it was very it was
Yeah.
eye opening for me in a great way. It wasn't just like, oh,
Yeah.
dad, you know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
loved it. Yeah, I loved it.
No, well, thank you. I hope she can
Yeah.
come back this year, but it's, we'll see. But she's doing her presentation this week, and she went on our photographer Brent Trossel, who put all this amazing Down the Hatch
Yes.
photos up.
Great
I'm sure you
guy.
got a few from him. So
Totally.
she went on his site last night. She's like, wow, these pictures are amazing from Down the Hatch. So she's made this huge slideshow of what she did, and we have a lot of behind the scenes. Her and I just like, working, really getting down into the grit of it 2 days before the event started. And she had to get in the van with me and drive 13 hours from Rhode Island to the Outer Banks and
Ooh.
stop at all the lame truck plazas and load in all the gear. And she's like, okay, this is a lot of work what you're doing here. This isn't just about you jumping off drum risers and being a dum
Right.
dum up on stage,
Right.
it's this there's so much that goes. I'm like, dude,
It's crazy.
I always say like all of this just to play some songs. It's like
Yeah.
it's amazing how much, I've heard people break down their hourly rate is. I'm like, if I ever did that, I would quit.
Have to quit. We both just use the same word. It's like we'd have to quit.
Yeah, it'd be, or I'd have to look around the room and be like, which of these guitars am I selling right now?
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
so it was very eye opening for her, and I love that she saw that. And she's, I'm trying to get her to come to more of my events because she's amazing at like almost like, I don't want to say being my handler, but it was kind of amazing to have her at the Popper show. We did this show in Washington D.C. with John Popper recently, and she
So
was all
cool.
in on that. She got to hang out with John. He finished the show and handed his harmonica to her. She's like,
What?
oh my god.
That's
And he
cool.
and he was really sweet to her, and it was really awesome experience. So
I love
um
hearing that. I love hearing that.
well,
Well, if you
so
guys ever felt like a sneak peek at your presentation, I would love to see what she did because that sounds awesome.
oh yeah, I look forward to it too. I'm hope she'll show it to me.
Cool.
So collaborations coming up for you. Are you like what's next on the recording front? What do you got going on?
It's a good question, Pat. Honestly, I'm at this point where it's the first time in a while that I have like a good feeling about knowing exactly what I want to do. But I'm at
Oh,
that point in a project, which I'm sure you're very familiar with, where I'm still trying to piece together the how. But I know that in kind of a departure from what I have been doing and back to what I love and back to a lot of the stuff we've been talking about, I want it to be musicians in a room playing music together,
right.
which sounds really simple, but I haven't been able to really do it in a real way in a long time. And I know that's been a big part of your process, and it always has been.
Oh
Like
no,
that
no.
record you did, you did with was it Lee? Those guys. Like
Yeah.
sometimes you posted video, yeah. So on that, something that gets closer to that place with amazing people in an amazing room, even if that gets stripped away, definitely playing live with musicians in a room for the next project. Like I've written the songs, and I'm always writing songs, as you know,
Right.
as we all are. But it's the first time I've had like real parameters for a project in a while. It's usually like, let me write these songs and like take them around and try and get them to the place I need them to be. This time, I'm like, I'm happy that I have like an actual concept, and
Right.
it's the simplest concept: play music with people, right?
Right.
But in 2024, it's not obvious. It's not obvious anymore, and I think it might be like a punk rock thing to do in 2024. So that's what
I
I'm going
Yeah.
for.
I don't know that I can ever go back to that other way. I mean, and it's
Yeah,
kind of
you know,
crazy to
yeah,
me to think back that we
yeah,
were a touring machine and all we did was play live. Our
yeah,
band
yeah,
hated to rehearse. Like
yeah,
rehearsals were like rehearsals were sound check or the gig. We
yeah,
didn't I mean I think the first month my band started, I handed them my solo acoustic bar schedule and was like, just show up at all these gigs.
Yeah.
Like you have 16 gigs the first month we're a band. That's what's going
Hmm.
on. And there is no
Hmm.
rehearsal. So
I love
that
that.
part of it was easy for me. But going into a studio, because Pro Tools had just been invented, and
Hmm.
now it's like piecemeal everything. And I just thought that's how you did it.
Hmm.
And I'm not a gearhead, so I don't really know how to work the stuff to begin with. So it wasn't until I did that record with the Section guys that
Yes.
a massive like light bulb went off. I'm like, well, this is
Right.
way cooler. And what gets onto the
Yeah.
tape is so much more honest. If I listen to all the records I've done, I'm like, well, that one sounds exactly like what I thought when I wrote the song.
Hmm.
It's still there. I can still hear the song. The other
Yeah.
version, the other albums, which I love, they became something else, and that's cool too.
Right.
But
Right. Cool
it's
too.
nice to have the option of it. There it is on tape. You want to add a bunch of other stuff to it, that's cool too. If you see it going somewhere else, but if you strip it away, you got this performance from all the musicians in the room and yourself that's undeniable.
Well, and
I
I think you
support
just
that.
hit on it, and not to, but I do think that there's a performance is important, and I want to build in a little pressure this time to perform. Like when I'm
Right,
singing with like whatever I'm doing, like if I'm building a track with a producer, it's different than being in a room with a ton of great musicians in a studio with an engineer, clock's ticking, money's ticking. It's
right,
going to help you, or ostensibly should, or potentially could help you
right,
step up your game a bit. Like you're going to perform, you know what I mean? And
right,
hopefully that translates to the tape. My first album where I be like, my first kind of Todd Carey project was that. And that's how
right,
it started. It was
right.
around the time that you guys were really like getting your thing going, or probably maybe a little bit later, but it worked for me, and I still
Right.
love the record. And so I want to get back to something like that. And whether I stay in
Yeah.
that lane, I don't know, but that's what I'm going to do. I'll be playing a bunch of songs, the songs at Down the Hatch, because we've been playing
Oh,
them
good.
live, and I like them. And yeah, so right now
Dude,
I'm just trying to figure out how to make that happen, basically.
I had a great weekend, which I didn't give too much thought to, but I said, listen, let's just revisit my first record from the wood that came out in 95. And I wrote those songs in 10 days under a lot of stress because I'd already booked the studio on my college break for over Christmas
Sick.
break.
I
I'd
love
already
it.
booked the studio and I had two songs written. And I
Right.
knew you had to put, I'm like, well, I'm looking at all my Led Zeppelin has 8 songs on the record. Squeeze, they have like 12. I'm like, oh geez, I better like write some more songs. So I frantically wrote like another 7 songs and played with some friends, a drummer and a bassist, and that's it. And I played the leads, the acoustic, sang the harmonies if there were any. And I'm like, I can't put too much on this because at the time I was playing solo acoustic in bars.
Right.
Like I'm not gonna be able to replicate this if I
Hmm.
keep stacking all this stuff. Um, so we revisited that album last weekend or 2 weekends ago in Richmond or in Northern Virginia and then
Looks like
Annapolis,
a great
Maryland.
show, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Oh, it was absolute blast to just go back and play your first album and have it be super honest. And, hopefully we've all got a little bit better at our instruments since then. And it's like we can sit back in an easy chair and play these songs. And it was really a great feeling to be like, this was 30 years ago, and these songs are kind of standing up. And I should remember that these lyrics, some of them might be like cringy for me now, but that's because I was 20 years old and that's what I honestly thought. That's what
Yeah.
I wrote. I didn't have a thesaurus by my bed. I literally just like wrote anything. I'm like, wow,
Hmm.
I rhymed beer with beer. That's pretty
That's amazing. I love it.
wow,
Is there
buddy.
a better way to rhyme beer? No.
Oh my God. Come on, give it a little effort. So it's cool that you're gonna go back with that mentality. And I too, every time it just takes turning on like I'll listen to a record like Neil Young Harvest Moon. I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
that thing is a masterpiece. And if I can
Oh,
get some of that,
so
like
good.
it's really like that's probably where I'm gonna end up is something that's I keep saying I'm gonna make an acoustic record. I'm like, okay, well, make sure it doesn't have to be totally acoustic, but it should feel
Mm,
you're in the room and you're listening to the show happen and it's
yeah.
very honest because people can I mean listen to that what's the song from Barbie? her and her brother. Oh my God, I'm so bad with
Oh
every pop
yes.
song.
What was I
The
made
song is
for?
so
Billie Eilish.
yeah, what Billie Eilish. So the song
Oh,
is so
so good.
incredibly written melody, and it's just like the rawest thing ever. And you're
It's
like,
so good.
okay,
And it stands
take
out, right? You're just like, wow.
yeah, and you go, all right, that song didn't exist, and now it exists. And you know, it's if I take anything from like when we were touring around and I went to see Glenn Phillips play in Los Angeles, and John Mayer was opening. I didn't know John Mayer, didn't know anything about him. He came over to the restaurant before our show, right next or before his show it was at the Roxy, and he's like, "Hey, Pat, what's going on?" And I was sitting there with my sax player. We were in town for something else. He's like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I'm going to see Glenn Phillips." He's like, "I'm opening the show." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." And I went over to see John play. I got there early because we were just next door. I'm like, "Well, let's go check him out." And I'm listening to him play. I'm singing all these melodies. I'm like, if anything's inspiring by this, it's like there's all these melodies that this kid just came up with. I call him a
Mm,
kid. He's only 4 years younger than me, but I'm listening there going, wow, there's endless amounts of songs to be written. Because
hmm
I thought every time you think like I'm running out of ideas, like then there's Billie Eilish who puts out this song that's so simple. You don't need all that extra stuff in there.
mm.
And if you can break it down to just that, I mean, that's a goal for me. And lyrically, I really want to challenge myself to say something that's like what you want to, whether it's the most simple message ever, because that can be really, wow, how did I not catch that? Or something really like heady, but I don't know. We'll see.
I love that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the simplest and hardest thing, right? But that's what keeps us coming back. It's like,
I
so
mean, my writing process is basically I pick up a guitar and I come up with a riff. And then the riff is what excites me to write the song. And it's been that way kind of forever. And that riff may become the chorus melody.
mhm.
It may not end up in the song as a guitar thing, but that's kind of like where I sit around and that's just listening to just an absolute ton of Allman Brothers, Eric Clapton, and the Dead.
I could go
Because
wrong that way, man.
those guitar riffs are just like that's why I got into music in the first place. So
And they get you excited and writing and not to go off on another tangent because I know your time's limited, but just listen to this Paul Simon audiobook,
oh
Malcolm
I heard
is
it.
it Gladwell?
Unbelievable.
Oh, you checked it out? It's so he starts. I'm so glad you did because I've been waiting, and he talks about how for the beginning, all the Simon and Garfunkel, and then the first few solo records, exactly what you're saying is how he did it, and I thought it was interesting because he totally evolved. Obviously, eventually he's
Hmm.
top lining it like hip hop guys do now. Like he's going to
Hmm.
Brazil and recording and whatever Graceland, and then he's just listening to the record and writing the lyrics on top. So, but now he's back to writing with the guitar, so it's full circle. There are a million ways to do it. I love the way you're
Hmm.
describing, which is what I want to get back to. And I'm excited about that prospect.
It is amazing too. We I know we always say this like, well, we should get together and write, and we will find some time at some point, even if it's
I
just
would
like
love
this.
that.
But
Yeah.
it's like it's amazing. In the middle of a house concert. Brian Facchino and I were doing this breakdown section of I don't even know what song we were in. One of my songs.
Hey, play that part again.
Songs and we hit this other thing, and I was like, "Don't stop!" I'm like, "Don't stop playing that." I grabbed my phone and I'm like, "You guys, I'm sorry, I have to tape this." And we put it down, and I just like these 30 seconds. It's a whole other song, and it's going to be great. I already know it. I can hear the whole song.
I
It's
love
done. I'm
it.
like, okay, and we went back into the song, put my phone back down. I'm like, I normally don't have my phone on stage, but I was like, thankful I did. Otherwise, I'd have been screaming at anyone. Can you tape this real quick?
Please record this. Well, that's
Yeah.
great thinking because that's how Paul Simon would say he wrote those songs, like the all the grace. He would just and there's even a story with like Los Lobos. He would go in a room and kind of like aggressively and weirdly just be like play and then not say anything for days until
Right.
they hit something like Fakino did. Like that's interesting. Record that. Now I'm gonna write. and it was
Right.
like discouraging and weird to a lot of people. Like there's this
Sure.
whole Los Lobos story, and we can go. I'll tell you about it when we're offline at some point. But
Right.
like mercilessly doing that to people
Right.
until
Right.
they get a thing that he likes to write over it, which is crazy.
I know. Oh my God, what a genius. I took so much from him. And I still to this day, I mean, I think I covered me and Julio to no end back in the day
Yeah,
because it was just like I so connect with this guitar and this vocal and this
true.
vibe of this song.
Yeah.
That's the reason there's a hole in my first acoustic because ding 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 like beat it to not to a
I wanted
pulp.
me and Julio as well. Like that's just something you want in your something like that. Yeah.
Oh
Those
yeah, like
early Dave covers of it were really cool too. If you ever heard those, I know
oh I
they
haven't.
hit that a few times.
Oh they did.
Like
That's funny.
early Dave Matthews Band tapes, like they would do it.
Uh,
It's cool. It's cool.
well, for a while we were covering "Diamonds in the Soles of Her Shoes," which ended up
Ah,
being a half an hour song for us because we would
yeah,
go into half of the Graceland record just on like
yeah.
a freeform thing, and it still I don't want to say haunts us, but I'll go to shows and people are screaming
You
"Diamonds."
do that thing.
I'm like, dude, we don't have a half an hour, and oh man, it's hard to replicate those moments.
Yeah.
Um, so again, we're also excited. We got Down the Hatch coming up very soon, but next year we're going to be on Sail Across the Sun with Train.
Yes.
Um, Sail Across the Sun to me is like the I think I've done like 26-man cruises or something crazy.
Unbelievable, man.
If it's
Have you done more than like anyone else who isn't Sister Hazel? Like, you know what I mean? You should
yeah, I
look
don't
that up,
know.
Pat. It's
We should,
possible.
I guess I don't know. We did a lot of them,
It's possible,
but
man.
it's possible.
Yeah.
We really enjoy that space. But what was I going to say? The musical diversity of Sail Across the Sun. Going into it, I think I wasn't. I didn't know what to expect on the first one. Maybe I didn't even look at the bill. I don't know, but I just remember walking around being like, "This feels so comfortable." Like, and you're not getting ear exhaustion.
Yes.
From
It's closer akin to the down the hatch philosophy, which I think is really great. It's one of the
right.
things I really love about Sail Across the Sun.
Right, that you can go into, yeah, and there's time off, but there's like
Yes.
this year these bands that they have on the bill, Living Color, who I saw in high school,
So
and
cool. I can't believe that's
my
happening.
my high school band covered half of the Vivid record. It was the
Ah,
weirdest. It was the weirdest band ever. We played like John Cougar and the Cult, the entire the Cult Electric album. We played the whole thing front to back,
do
and
you
then we
care to
played
share what your high school
Living
band was
Color.
called since the title of mine was outed on
Oh,
this pot on this?
oh, it was called Reverse Oyster Cult,
Yes.
and I for
That's
some
good.
reason, and
I
I
think mine
stole.
might still be worse, but that one's
I
pretty good too.
no, dude. Where was this picture that I just found? Oh my God, it was hysterical. I'll have to find it. But yeah, I don't know. I thought I found a picture of my high school band. My daughter was like, "Wait, what was the band like?" I'm like, "Oh God, Juge. Oh yeah, here it is. Here it is, and here's the tapestry in the back of the
Oh, that's sick. Oh, it already looks cool.
double
That's a
bass.
band that I would be
Oh,
going to. I would be following you guys in high school for sure. Is
because
that you?
you oh,
Ah,
it's me cutting the
outfit. That's awesome.
Led Zeppelin T with my first Strat.
Yeah. Is that? Oh man, I love that.
Dude, we had a stage in our basement that had a drum riser, and it's
That is.
an
See,
8 foot
you were
ceiling.
born for this, man. Did you said
Some
your brother's a musician as well, who you were playing with
yeah,
then?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
awesome.
We started a little acoustic cover thing, and he was in college. I was in high school, and
Hmm.
it was amazing being in high school and going away for the weekend and playing like the Princeton eating clubs and coming
Oh,
back and
sick.
they're like, "What'd you do?" Talking to your friends in high school. I'm like, "I played in front of all these
Yeah.
college girls. This was the most amazing weekend of my life."
Hmm.
And I'm like, I look probably 12 and
Yeah.
probably playing me and Julio until the wee
Hmm.
hours of the night, and then going to like Penn State and going to these other colleges. And
So cool.
it definitely, yeah, it's a huge reason I owe my brother big time for that.
That's where the bug was caught. And these guys I was
Oh,
telling you about who were my neighbors were basically my brothers. And it was Jacko Pierce.
right,
So like that's kind of what I'm talking
right.
about. It was like that thing, which is crazy.
Well, Carrie
Yeah.
and Jack will love hearing that, and I'm sure they'll
Yeah.
love. Some of the coolest moments have been where like Patrick McLoone was a huge fan of Ellis Paul growing up, and
Hmm.
Ellis Paul played Down the Hatch. And I got him to get up there and do 3,000 miles with him. And Macklin, I'm sure, was just like, dude, I'm not worthy kind of thing. And he got up there and absolutely destroyed it. And Ellis Paul's like, holy crap, this guy is amazing. It's in your band.
Yeah, because he is.
And then the same thing that happened to Willie Porter. Willie Porter comes to Down the Hatch. And I'm like, I couldn't wait to tell Patrick that I had booked Willie. And he's like, you got to be kidding me. I'm obsessed with Willie Porter. I'm like, I know. So he got to get up there and sing one of the songs off of No Angry Words album. That was very influential on both of us. And I love those moments. So maybe we can maybe do Rain with Jacob Pierce. That'd be fun.
Oh God, how sick would that be? Or honestly, any of the people you have. It's I'm just using them as an example because the whole bill is kind of like that. And when I look back, I'm like, wow. And I know when you wrote me about this, I was like, dude, this bill. Like you really did great with this one. I think it's going to be a good year, man. Yeah.
Thanks, dude. Looking forward to it. And we'll see you in Kill Devil Hills. If any of you guys out there who haven't bought tickets yet, we urge you to come and join us for 4 days of musical experimental bliss. I don't know. It's hard to put it into words, really. And you're going to experience your first sunny one. I look forward to that. I mean, I know.
I was like, this is clearly, I can see where we're going with this weather here. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's going to be great. And I live in Charleston, so like, it's not a huge deal for me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, bring some of that. Please bring some of that beach sunshine. And it's great talking to you, Todd. Thanks for taking the time.
Too, so great to finally do this, man.
Yeah, we've been trying to put this together and it's all on me that it's gone one way or the other. And if you know, when you 4 kids and a time schedule that's like always
literally
changing.
Don't need to say another word about it. Trust me, I totally get it. So it's all good.
All right, dude. Well, have a great rest of your week. And thanks for being a part of Down the Hatch. I'll see you in Kill Devil Hills. We'll be there before we know it.
Pat, it's been so cool getting to talk to you, and I really appreciate you having me, man. I'm really